Lifting heavy can be one of the best things you can do for your bones after 40. But if you skip the prep, it can do more harm than good. So in today's episode, we're going to talk through everything that you need to do prior to lifting heavy. So things like core training, joint range of movement, building basic muscular endurance, and also the best exercises to master. So without further ado, let's get into it. To start off this episode, I want to talk about them as a whole. So this doesn't need to be done in a particular order. All of these can be worked on at the same time. So if you want to start lifting heavy, I don't suggest that you start lifting heavy to start with. What I recommend is at least hitting these four components of training, if you want to call them that, first, and then moving into lifting heavy. So, as we've mentioned in the introduction, we're going to go through core training, joint range of movement, building a basic muscular endurance, and mastering the basic exercises. So we're going to break that up into four, let's just say, categories, and then what we'll try and do at the end is sort of summarize it and bring it together. But what I'll probably be able to do as we go through is talk through how they all fit together as well, how often you need to be doing them and things like that. If you do have any questions about anything that I say throughout, just stick them down in the comment section below. Hit the subscribe button and bell icon because you'll get more of this type of content. And also, if you want to learn more about this topic, hit the link in the description. You'll go through to my how to build bone and muscle health newsletter, so my strength training newsletter, which again it specialises in information like this, so it will be delivered to you every single month on this topic, which is completely free. So what we'll do is we'll go into part one, which is core training. Core training is, well, all four of these areas are kind of the foundation to strength training, but core training is the foundation in some respects to the other three. So what we need to be able to do is, first of all, understand core training. They're not all the same thing. Core strength is not the same as core stability, and core stability isn't the same as core endurance. So we have to build each of these. And why do we need to build the core? Because when you're lifting heavy, that's when you're most likely to be pulled out of position. You also need the core to transfer energy. So when you lift, you need to transfer the force that's generated by your legs through the torso, down the arms to lift the bar up off the floor. And if your legs are stronger than your core, you'll be able to lift, but you'll bend your spine because your core muscles aren't strong enough to hold that weight like your legs are. So what we need to be able to do is we need to sort of create a whole body strength, and that's what the core is able to do. With the overhead press, it's slightly different because the core isn't transferring energy through the torso. It's essentially holding the torso against the arms, pushing the weight over the head. So I've already mentioned two of the key exercises, but I'm going to talk about those in more detail when we get to the final section. So we need the core strength to be able for the body to hold itself. We need the core stability to be able to get the muscles to activate at the right time. Because if one comes on slightly late, then that's going to cause issues even if they are strong enough. Because they're slightly late, there's going to be a minute amount of time where there's going to be excess load on certain tissues. So we need to get them timing at the right time. So we need core strength to be able to hold the body. We need core stability to be able to get the muscles firing at the right time, or heightening their activity at the right time is the proper way to describe it, because it's not an on and off switch, it's a heightening and dampening of muscle activity. The final thing is core endurance. Now, we need core endurance because although we're doing strength exercises, and we're going to do strength exercises for the lower body and the upper body, your core is working within all of these. So if your strength training session is 45 minutes or an hour long, your core needs to be able to work for that 45 minutes or an hour, whereas your limbs only need to work for the period of time that exercise is being performed, but the core is involved in all of it. So we need the core endurance to be able to hold the body in the right position for the hour or the 45-minute session that your exercises are going for. So that's the first thing that we need, is to be able to get the core working and get the core working sufficiently. So that needs to be a part of the program, if you will. What we'll now do is talk about the second component of the program, which is going to be joint range of movement, and we'll do exactly the same as we've done in this one. We'll talk about why that's so important and why don't we just go and lift heavy. The second component of sort of the preparation for strength training is joint range of movement, which is important because if we're performing a deadlift, we're going to be lifting a weight from the floor. Now, there are other alternatives that can be used, but if we are choosing to lift from the floor, we need adequate range of movement throughout the ankles, knees, and hips. Now, I'm going to mainly focus on the hips because a deadlift should be predominantly a hip extension exercise, which basically means your hips bend and then you extend and stand up straight. So that is the predominant movement for the deadlift. Now, if you don't have adequate range of movement at the hips, you're going to need to get it from somewhere else to be able to get down far enough to lift the weight up. And it's either going to come from the joint above it or the joint below. Obviously, the joint below is the knees, so you'll either bend the knees more than you should, or you'll bend the back more than you should to make up for the lack of range of movement at the hip. Now, if we're lifting a heavy weight and we're in that compromised position, we are essentially just leaving ourselves more open to injury, or at least problems in those areas. We'll be adding to additional aches and pains, which you may already have. If we can build range of movement, number one, we give ourselves the ability to get into the right positions to be able to lift, but we also can have a therapeutic effect on the back, on the hips, and on general aches and pains in the hip and low back area. Now, that's not to say it's 100% guaranteed, but as a general rule, if we can open out the hips, we're more likely to have a healthier spine as a result. So what we have to be able to do is build the range of movement of the hips so we can flex the hips enough, maintain the proper position of the spine, and then lift the weight from the floor. If we then go to the other example of the overhead press, we need adequate range of movement at the shoulders and the upper back, because the exact same will apply. If we don't have the adequate range of movement at the shoulders, it will go to the joint below it, which is the shoulder girdle, with the shoulder blades, and the upper back. So we need to be able to get basically from the hips, the upper back, the shoulder blades, and the shoulders moving adequately enough. And we need to do this at lower loads, because if we just jump in at heavier loads, that heavier load is going to make your body panic. And then you're not going to be able to control the movement, and you're not going to be able to control the compensation that comes as a result. So we need to be able to build, as we're building the core strength, we need to be able to also build joint range of movement. If we can do that, we're going to be in a much better place than if we just jump straight into strength training. So it's very much about, first of all, understanding the parts of the body that we need to build the range of movement, as I've described: the hips, the upper back, the shoulder girdle, which is the shoulder blades. So the shoulder blades need to be able to come around the rib cage as you lift your arms over your head. So we need to get all of that working, and then we just need adequate range of movement at the shoulder joint as well, so that when we push over the head, the bar can go directly above the head without putting any excess pressure on the body, which will then create an injury, or at least an ache or a pain. So part number one, we need to build the core. We need to build all the three parts of the core: the strength, the stability, and the endurance. The second component is we need to build joint range of movement, but joint range of movement mainly of the hip, of the upper back and shoulder girdle, and of the shoulder joint. What we'll do now is talk about muscular endurance. We'll look at what that is, we'll look at how we can integrate it, and we'll look at why we need to be able to build it. Muscular endurance is kind of exactly what it says on the tin. It's endurance of your muscles. So it's the foundation to muscular strength. So it will give you a basic muscular strength as well. It will also start to condition your muscles for heavier loads. So when we talk about muscular endurance, we're generally talking about 12 reps. When we talk about muscular strength, we're talking about 6 reps. So what you can lift for 6 reps will be a lot heavier than what you can lift for 12 reps. So you would build that basic muscular conditioning, which is muscular endurance. That will then start to turn into a strength endurance, because as you do more of it, your muscles will condition, and then you'll be able to lift heavier weights. So there will be a strength gain to it, but there will also be a endurance gain to it and a conditioning gain to it. Now, what's important at this level is practicing the movements, if you will. So you're going to choose very similar exercises for muscular endurance that you will at strength, muscular strength. But you also want to build, like with the core, you just need to build a general sort of muscular endurance. Because what that's going to do, that's going to help build the whole of the body. And then when we go for muscular strength, we aren't necessarily training the movements. We just want that stimulus of the strength. Whereas at the moment, what we're trying to do is build the foundation. So muscular strength, we would use exercises like a Romanian deadlift, not necessarily a full deadlift, because we may not have the joint range of movement. So we're building the joint range of movement, we're building the core. We're building the muscular endurance with similar exercises like a Romanian deadlift, like a shoulder press, like a rowing movement or a pulling movement. So a row would be, you pull it towards you. A pulling movement, again, you would pull it towards you, you would pull up, whatever it needs, or pull down, or whatever it needs to be. This will cover a lot of the major muscles of the body. You can go into squatting as well, lunging, lots of different exercises to build that. But you would do that at a lighter weight with roughly 12 reps. As your body then conditions to it, you could probably go up slightly on a weight. And then what you're doing is you're now setting the stage to be able to do strength training. And making that jump requires a solid foundation, because as I've said before, if we jump straight into it, there's potentially going to be muscular or joint problems that can occur. So what we're essentially doing, you've all probably heard the phrase, jumping in at the deep end. That's what we don't want to do with strength training, because that can send our body into panic, aches, pains, and greater risk of injury. What we need to be able to do, if we take that metaphor or analogy of a swimming pool and jumping in at the deep end, what we need to do is we need to walk into the shallow end, down the steps, and we then need to get used to being in the shallow end of the pool, and then we can move into the middle of the pool, and then we can move to the deep end of the pool. And the strength training is the deep end. But building building the core as we've talked about, building the joint range of movement as well. That's going to allow us to be able to perform these movements. Then we layer on top muscular endurance. We're starting now to move into that middle part of the pool, ready for the strength training when we come to it. And just one thing on the strength training, we would do this again either for a period of time, or it would be mixed in with the muscular endurance. So if we solely did strength training, certainly when we're starting out, we may only do 6 to 8 weeks to start with. Then we would go back to a muscular endurance just to allow the body some downtime, a little bit easier training, an opportunity to recover. And then we would go back from the endurance back into the strength training. And then the more conditioned we get to strength training, the longer we can stay there. The other option is we maintain doing the muscular endurance and we just wrap in the muscular strength training. So that will allow, because we're doing it through the session, so we may just do 2 exercises in session number 1 and 2 exercises in session number 2 of strength training. That will allow us to do it over a prolonged period of time. So that might be 12 to 16 weeks, and then we might change the training. So we have to think about it in these little periods as well. It's not just this one workout and this is what I do for the rest of my life. It's about understanding the nuances and being able to adapt the training to manage recovery, because if we do everything perfectly, so if we've got the correct range of movement, if we've got good core strength and we've got good muscular endurance, so we've built that foundation, if we've got all of that, if we just do too much exercise at too high an intensity, then we can cause problems on its own. So we're doing everything perfectly. The only thing we're not doing perfectly is we're just doing too much of it. The body will eventually wear itself down. So what we have to do is be able to manage that, which is why we would do it in periods. But now what I'll talk about is like the final component, if you will. It's not necessarily a stage, but it's a component. And we'll talk about the movement and the exercises to master when it comes to strength training. There are 3 basic movements to master. One is lower body, and the other 2 is an upper body push and an upper body pull. So those are the basic 3 movements to master. So when doing the core training and when doing the joint range of movement, this is when you start developing those movements, because we need to get better at them. You may need to build some range of movement to get, say, deeper into a squat or deeper into a deadlift. You may need to develop range of movement of the shoulder to be able to get the bar fully over the head, or whatever it may be. Now, to go through all the technique points of this is a bit beyond the scope of this, because we're just talking, or I'm just talking face to camera. But what I can do is explain the movement and explain why we need to do it and how to do it. So the 3 movements are, which I would recommend, it's either a deadlift or a back squat. So those would be if you can choose both of those, or you can choose one of those. But basically a deadlift, so lifting a weight from the floor, and a squat. But the prerequisite to that is being able to perform it correctly. So I have workshops on this, so you can check out throughout the channel, and you can find out more about this. Also, if you've got any questions about strength training, or maybe the journey that you've been on so far, stick them down in the comment section and I'll do my best to get them answered. So we have the 2 lower body exercises, the squat or the deadlift. The reason we choose those is because they are the ones that you can load the most. The weight is sat on the back, so it's not on the hands, but your strongest movement is the deadlift, lifting the weight from the floor. So one of those 2 or both of them if you so choose. The other exercise is an overhead press. And then the final exercise, which is the upper body pull, is some sort of dumbbell row or cable rowing exercise. So basically having a weight in front of you and pulling it towards you. So that could be done with regards to a dumbbell, rowing it upwards, or it could be done with a cable pulling it towards you. So we have those 4 exercises, but I would recommend choosing at least one of the lower body exercises and then both the overhead press and the rowing exercise. So we have those as our 3 sort of bone strengthening, muscle strengthening exercises. Now, with regards to performing them, we need to start at the muscular endurance phase. So we're developing the range of movement, we're practicing the exercise basically, we're getting better at the movement that we need. So what we're doing is we're giving the muscles time to coordinate the movement, we're conditioning the muscles with the necessary endurance and basic strength endurance as well. We're training the nervous system to activate those muscles at the right time, and we're setting the stage for the heavier loads, which is what we want. Now, at the muscular endurance stage, we're doing all of those things. We're not just building the muscular endurance, we're doing all of those things. So when we get to the muscular strength phase, we've got all of that in place. We don't have to necessarily think about the position that we're in because we've honed it. We don't have to worry too much about the muscular condition because we've trained them to cope with the loads. But what we may need to do is just think about the reps that we're choosing and the weights that we're doing with those reps. So with regards to the reps, it's a maximum of 6. So you can go anywhere from 4 to 6 reps, let's say, with strength training. So if you can get to that stage, what I recommend is using a weight that's slightly too light. So maybe you're lifting a weight that you could lift for 8 reps, but you start at 6. What you can then do is then work into lifting heavier and heavier weights at 6 reps. And what happens there, or what you're able to then do there, is learn what strength training feels like, because muscular endurance is more feeling the burn. Strength training is you simply just can't lift it. So what you should be thinking at the end of 6 reps when you're doing proper strength training is that you might be able to do 1 more rep. If you can think, I might be able to do 1 more rep, you've got the right weight, and that's what you would use. When that turns into, yeah, I can definitely do 1 more, that's when you need to add a little bit of weight on, and it will only be a little bit. So you then need to sort of think about how you then go about progressing that. So we've got the 4 movements: the squat, the deadlift, the upper body push, and the upper body pull. So we've got those 4 movements. We then just need to work into them, which is starting at a slightly lighter weight with extra reps and then working down into 6 reps, but working up the weight when we get down to the 6 reps into a place where we can say, oh, I might be able to do 1 more rep. And then finally getting to a place where you can definitely do 1 more rep and then go, this is the time I need to increase the weight, and start that whole process again, and then do that over that period of 6 to 8 weeks and just continually lifting. And as I mentioned, the strength component will just be one part of core, range of movement, muscular endurance, practicing the movement. So those are all the steps to how you build into strength training for your bones. Again, if you have any questions, put them down below. If you've enjoyed the content, hit the like button. If you want to watch more of these, hit the subscribe button. If you want more content like this to your email address every single month, then hit the link below and go through to my How to Build Strength newsletter, which will come through free every single month. So many thanks for watching. My name is Chris. I'll speak to you in the next episode.